Okay, preparing. Good afternoon, Nkosi Talk Shows family. Is Namsa here at Nkosi Talk Shows. Find your own voice, lead from within. With me today, I have Amanda Murray and Grant Morel. How are you guys?
Okay. Busy is the short answer.
Busy, busy. Are you still celebrating Grant?
No, I'm not celebrating. I've moved on from that. There's a lot of other things going on in my.
How are you moving on? You must still be celebrating. You got to celebrate it till the end.
I will celebrate, but there's been there's been a little bit of there's been some bad news in my life, not related to me, but someone very close to me. So I'm sort of delaying celebrations for a little bit, just out of respect, out of mark of respect. I'm going to delay that for a little while. But yeah, I'm aware of it, and I'm still very, very pleased about my honorary doctorate. It's a great thing to have, and very grateful for that recognition.
And Amanda, you were on holiday. How was your holiday? Your audience missed you. Please
Lovely.
do share. Share. How was it?
It was lovely. I went away with my cousins, and my one cousin has a baby, and she's 1.5. So we had lots of just like baby cuddles and lake time. We were out on the boat a whole bunch. So I got to water ski. It was fantastic.
That's nice.
Awesome. Awesome. We're happy you're back because we were missing you.
Yeah, we do.
And I'm happy
So
to be back too.
So our topic today is unique approaches to relationship conflict resolution. So have you ever felt stuck in a never-ending argument with your partner where it feels like you are speaking different language? What if we told you here at Ngosi Talk Show that there's a way to break the cycle and actually feel heard? What do you think about the topic, guys?
It's a challenging topic. I think it's a great topic, actually, but it's challenging. What about you, Amanda?
Well, I think this is like a really great topic. I think that relationships have like so many layers, and there's so many different types of relationships, because often you think of relationship conflict just in intimate relationships, but that's not always the case, because you can have relationship conflict with family or friends or your children. And so I think there's a lot to unfold with this question for sure. And I think that one of the best ways I know for myself is to read a lot on best ways to deal with conflict and different approaches, so that you're coming to it from a not like flipped lid approach, and where you can take a step back and be like, okay, what are my patterns? Why is it that I'm reacting this way? And then what are the ways that like I can approach this? And so I think even like one of the books that I always suggest to people when they're struggling with relationships, it's called Attached, and it's about like your attachment patterns. And when I read that book for myself, because I tend to have like anxious attachment style, that it was like, oh, that's why I react that way when somebody avoids this. And that's why I was like, it made so much sense to me for like why I behave the way that I do in a conflict, especially with an avoidant person. And then how that avoidant person is actually approaching the situation, and why their behavior is the way that it is as well. And it just was like, it was mind blowing to me to be like, oh, for the first time in my life, I was like, this is exactly why I behave this way. And I could like, it made so much sense to me. Whereas before I just felt like it was like a reaction. And in some ways it is, but it also, it's like a pattern of people who approach the world the way that I tend to feel, and why they feel the way that they do. And it also gave suggestions onto like, if you are an anxious person, then you can say like these things to somebody who's avoidant, to be able to like help balance, right? Come into balance, so that there isn't so much conflict, so that you're not spiking their avoidant behavior, and also at the same time not spiking your anxious behavior, which I thought was a really interesting way to approach it. And I think that it, there's so many different types of relationship conflict, and it's really great to dive into. What do you think, Grant?
I think you've articulated that brilliantly, gee, Amanda. And you said something great there. You said a lot of great things actually, but one of them, teacher, was was the part about different types, different
I
personalities.
almost have to go back to work, so I better get into my teacher mode.
That's what it's all about. You have to remind yourself I am the teacher.
Yeah,
Okay.
I am the teacher. I'm not on vacation starting next week.
Well, I think you have to look at different personality types. You're right, different personality types and different communication types. People look at things in certain ways, and in relationships, let's take a look at this. That people, one of the greatest things, whether you're coaching a client, whether you're in a relationship, is to understand what they are. You may not use this terminology, but the idea is, what are their goals? What do they want from this? What do they want from this? What outcome do they want from this relationship? It may sound obvious, but certain people need certain things from a relationship: tenderness, support, love, or you could say all of the above. But some things are more important to other people than other things. Some people just want a companion, and literally, some people do just want that. Possibly, and that perhaps that's something that I was talking about before the show. People want it not about myself, but about someone I know. Want a companion. Some people want full, explosive, passionate sex. They want that. It's very important for some people, not so much for others. Some people it's loving relationships, it's conversation. Some people it's traveling, having experiences. Some it's all about children, and some it's a combination of all of those. But communication is the key, isn't it? Communication is the key for the individual. What do you want? Now we're talking about, this is relationships. I'm talking about, affairs of the heart, romantic relationships. They, as you quite rightly said, Amanda, there's a relationship with your boss, unless you're having an affair with the boss. But you don't know, or your teammates.
Hope
Or
not.
but generally, it's a working relationship, right? That's the way we look at it. Or it could be your family members, relationship with your neighbors. They're all relationships, aren't they? So we can look at this differently. But either way you look at it, people need certain things from it. One of the hugest things I see in life is that we always go in, don't we, thinking what I want from it. Me, what I want. Well, that's important. You need to know what you want about it. That's important. But you're part of the equation, not the whole equation. When other people are involved, what do they want out of it? Are you bringing to the table what they need? Are you asking them what they need? Do you know what they need? Do they know what you need? Communication, I think, is the key. If this is a unique approach, I don't think so. Well, it's probably more unique than people give it credit for, because it shouldn't be. It should be obvious. We should be communicating. We should be asking these questions. We should be ascertaining, asking the questions of ourselves. What do I need from this? What am I willing to give in this relationship? What does it mean? Where do we want it to go? How do we want it to evolve, etc., etc.? We should be asking ourselves these questions, but we should also be having this conversation with the other person. My suspicion is a lot of people don't really do that, or they did it once back in the day, and they got married, or they got a home together, or something, whatever, and then they just did it every day. They didn't talk about it. Now, is that wrong? Not for everybody. It's not wrong. Some people are just like peas in a pod. I saw a couple of cousins the other day. Now, I'm pretty sure they don't have those conversations, but they're just happy. They're never going to get divorced. They're just happy. They muddle along, laugh and joke together. Don't do anything outstandingly exciting, but they just do the things that makes them happy. They are, what's the word? Content. They cracked it. They cracked the code, really. They're content. They're never going to set the world on fire. They don't want to. They're just happy in each other's company. They are content. And that's brilliant. That works for who? It works for them. It works for them. Another couple, that ain't going to work for them. So it's all about that communication, knowing who it is for you. So I think, although it's not technically unique, but communication is one of the key things. I think it's almost unique. There's no such thing as almost unique. That's an oxymoron, of course. But it's, if it was unique, it could be, because people just don't do it anywhere near enough, in my opinion. Lobster, do you think people communicate enough, or?
I think we live in this world where everyone is so busy, people don't really communicate enough, and they are willing to settle for what they have because they don't want no trouble. They know exactly what they want, and they know that they're not happy, or if they're not happy, they will go with the option of giving each other space. But it's not really the space that they need, is just to talk, because we get that closeness by sharing our emotions, what we think, how we want, our desires. And also, Amanda, you said different types, you mentioned different types of personality. And I think it's very, very important. And Grant, you mentioned the goals and supporting each other is very, very, very important. And also, every relationship is different. As long people don't go around and comparing their conflict with other people in that way, because I've seen people, they'll be like, oh, well, my friend lives this life. Why can't I live? I look at my husband is so boring, or my wife is so boring. I'm like, how do you know that people are actually happy in their lives? Because when you see pictures, they put pictures on Facebook, that does not mean that people are happy. So some people, they are like a Grant, you were saying, that is, some people, they don't bother. They just are happy with that thing. Like for me, if I was to date somebody, and if I'm dating somebody where we don't communicate, I wouldn't be happy with that. I don't want my relationship for me to be treated as an option. And I don't want the person that I'm dating to feel like, oh, okay, this person had kids with me and that's about it. I want the full on in a relationship. I want to be treated like a queen. I'm a queen. And I want to treat my my spouse like a king. So that means I got to acknowledge him. I got to fulfill his needs. Even though I can never fulfill his 100% needs, but I have to do my part. So if I don't have that opportunity, then to me, that's not a relationship.
Uh, so is there something about giving yourself in a relationship?
Yeah, I got to give. Yeah, I got to give. I got to know my duty. Why am I in that relationship? I'm in that relationship. A man has his needs, a woman has his needs. But when a man does not recognize me as his woman, I shouldn't be. I've never entered I don't enter a relationship to date a best friend. I need a lover.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Uh,
so I need that full on.
yeah, it's a different dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're dating someone, or if you're about to date someone, different theories, but if you don't become the lover within a certain space of time, the danger is you could become the friend.
Yeah.
And then nothing's going to be happening in the bedroom then if you're the friend, right? You be relegated to a really good friend. And that's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing, but it's hard to then cross that boundary. I think there's a certain it's just like making a sale. There's a certain time to close the deal. There's a certain time to, what are we? Are we what's going on? What are we? And I think that's really important, because there is a song that says, "You are my lover, you are my best friend." Can be. It's a good thing, nice to have, but it is different. Different relationship. Now, I always tell the story, it always makes me laugh. I was coaching one of my clients once, who is also a coach. He was training to become a coach. And I asked him, what have you learned in the last couple of weeks? He said, he said, I've learned that I can't coach my wife. And I said, oh boy, yeah, you really can't coach your wife, because you've got a different relationship. I think he tried some of that stuff. He said, hey, don't pull that coaching stuff on me. I'm not one of your clients. I'm your wife. It's different, right? You've got a different kind of relationship. I've remember once reading something, I can't think who it was, but it was some like bodybuilder, big guy, and he said, what do you like in there? And he said, what do you like at home? Who runs the home? He said, oh, the wife. He said, I'm not the boss at home. No, not at all. A very different dynamic. As one of my friends once said, when it comes to decorating a home, I let my wife do it. I that's her place. she likes doing that, and that's her thing. They have that dynamic. Would it work for some people? Some people want the unity of their both ideas, putting it together because they're creating it. I get that too. Again, it comes down to that word communicating. What works for you guys? Talk about these possibilities, and see what really works. But resolution to conflict, I want to hone in on that word. So it's all going well, right? It's wonderful. I saw a TV advert once, and it was like a 30-second advert of a whole relationship. From, oh, hello, how are you? Let's go for coffee. Wow, you're amazing. Where have you been all my life? Let's get married. Let's have children. This is great. Oh, you're crowding me. You're too much. You're getting on my nerves. Stay away. You're freaking me out. Don't ever call me again. Boom. And he went through this in about 30 seconds. Where does it go wrong? And why does it go wrong? Where does that conflict start? Before we start talking about the resolution, where does conflict go wrong? Because there wasn't conflict at the beginning, right? You got together, you clearly thought this person was fantastic. There was a great person to be with. There's a great choice. You were smitten with each other. It was all great. And something went a bit wrong and conflict come in. Was it the roles weren't verified? Was it that the roles changed? Priorities, work, career, family got involved and it just ruined that great thing? I don't know. Was it children? Was children the best thing? Were children a distraction from loving each other? Did the woman become the housewife and the cleaner and the guy became the paycheck? And that's a bit stereotypical. It could be reversed, but you get the idea. Is that what it was? And someone once said, I started to become a functional person in the relationship rather than the lover. We used to be lovers and now we're just like work buddies, we just run the household together. What happens? Amanda, with you, your friends, other people, where does it go wrong?
I think a lot of it has to do with like expectations, right? When people have like these expectations or in their heads about what should happen, but then they don't communicate that, right? Or you have like expectations of what you think is best in a situation and then it doesn't turn out the way that you hoped. Or in the like infatuation stage where people like I was married to a narcissist, or who I assume is a narcissist. So I had like that like infatuation stage and then the devaluation stage, and then it would go like in like these waves. And if you learn anything about narcissism, that's what happens is like there's like this infatuation stage and then a devaluation stage, and then there's a like again, and they do like where, but it's never the reality, that reality where that's the infatuation stage is where they like chameleon themselves into being what your dream person is, and whoever they're with, they chameleon themselves into being that person's dream person and then the next person's dream person, and they never really show their true colors or even I think know who they truly are on the inside. And so they chameleon themselves into that. And like I've had a few relationships where like I'm a big hiker and I love to hike and I love to ski and I love to be out in the mountains. And I've been in relationships where at the start, people are like, yeah, I love to ski and I love to hike. And I'm like, okay, great, let's go. And then I go like every second week or every weekend. And they're like,
and then it changes.
yeah, and then it changes. They only are like, or they never go when it's not me. And I'm like, really not a hiker or a skier because like you're just doing it to like appease me, right? Where it's different if you go into something and like, I'm not a golfer, right? I like to golf. I'm happy if somebody wants to teach me how to golf, but I would never go into a relationship and be like, oh, I love golfing. I golf all the time, blah, 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 blah. I would full on be like, I'll golf with you if you teach me or if you let me throw the ball, right? Because I'm going to be like very open and honest about my golfing skills, but not everybody is like that. People are like, oh, or they think in their own heads and they truly believe like, I do like this, but then the reality is they don't actually. And so I find that out often, like that has happened to me in a number of relationships where they're approaching it from not their like own true selves and owning who they truly are in the beginning. And I think sometimes we do that. Everybody does that. We put on our best foot forward, and then our patterns show up. And unless we're doing work on our patterns, those patterns are going to show up and they're going to cause conflict, right? And so something that's triggering to you might not be triggering in the beginning, but then is triggering later on. It's like when my daughter's not feeling well, and if I chew chips beside her, she's like, "Get away from me. You're so annoying." And I'm like, "I'm just eating chips." And she's like, "How you chew is annoying," right? Like we just get into points where people bother us because we're annoyed by their behaviors, and it could just be our own struggle, or that we're tired or whatever it is, but we don't know how to communicate saying, "Hey, I'm really tired. Could you please not eat beside me?" It comes out as like, "Get away from me. I don't like how you chew." And I have a teenager, so sometimes it's up and down. And even what I was saying before about reading books, I've been reading a book on raising teens right now because I have a teenager, and some of her behaviors, I'm like, this is so weird. Like, why do you shut your door? And where your door never had to be shut before. And I'm like, what's wrong with this kid? But then I'm reading this book and I'm like, oh, that's actually like a natural part of growing up, is coming home and shutting the door. And I thought maybe she was like struggling with something, but then after reading this book, I'm like, oh no, this is like a normal process for teenagers to do these specific types of things. And then it gives me strategies for how to approach it in ways that are not going to trigger that teen mindset, right? And so I think sometimes we forget what it was like to be a teenager if we're having conflict with our children, but also sometimes it's like you need a different perspective from somebody that's like done a lot of work in that area. So like with coaching for Grant, or with teaching for me, you would come to me if you're struggling with something with teaching, right? And so, or with school. So if one of my friends has a problem with school, they're going to come to me because they know that like I have expertise in that area. Right now, I'm currently going through some struggles with a car accident that I was in, and I have a friend who's an insurance adjuster, and so I've been going to her for that expertise on like what is it that I should do in that area, because it's good to go to experts for like resolutions in different areas, but then with our relationships, sometimes I think we forget about that. We forget that there are experts in the areas of relationship that can help us. And we think that we have to navigate it alone, and we don't necessarily have to do that. We don't have to navigate it alone, especially with relationships, because there are so many books and experts out there who can help us navigate our patterns so that we're not having our patterns constantly cause us to have the same conflict. And if you think about your relationship, whether it's an intimate relationship or a relationship with a child or a relationship with a friend, how often is your conflict the exact same argument every single time?
Yeah.
And then why is it that exact same argument every single time? So my previous relationship that I did have, after a year and a half, I was like, it's the same disagreement every single time, and nothing's changing, and there's no growth here. And so I had to like respectfully end the relationship, because I was like, I'm just going in circles. Just going in circles because I'm having the same conversation of what it is that I need to feel loved, and that's not happening. And so that it's okay. I don't need to change you. I can appreciate our relationship for what it is, and then say, it's okay, right? It's okay, but this is what I need to feel loved for me, right? And so I think when we approach conflict resolution too, we have to look at it as where are my patterns showing up, so that I can be consciously aware of it, and then have a logical like conversation with somebody as to why my patterns are showing up in this situation.
Good
Um,
point.
yeah, I agree with you, Amanda, because when you keep having the same pattern, it means that person is listening to you without love, and that shows you that it's an empty sound. So whatever the message you are sending across, and they're not really interested. They tell you that I hear you, but actually they don't care. So that becomes a love that is empty, has no meaning. Because if my spouse was to come to me and they tell me this is how I feel, if I truly care about that person, I'll stop and say, what am I contributing to make this person feel the way they are feeling? And also, you mentioned the expectations. Before I got into personal development, I used to approach this relationship like I'll go into my spouse and I've already have made up the answer that I'm looking for, but I'm going to him and ask him. But if I don't get to that answer that I'm expecting, then I get angry. So I had to change. I had to say, okay, I need to let this person decide, not me deciding for them. Because if I'm going to them and asking something and then they don't give me the reaction that I want, and then I get upset, that means there's another reaction that in my mind that I've already made up that I'm expecting from him. So I had to take the expectations away, and that it gives freedom. It gives you like you end up understanding what is true love. True love is that love that gives the unconditional, where when you speak to somebody it heals. When you speak to somebody, if they don't get you, they don't give you the response that you want, you're like, oh, okay, sure, but that's not what I expecting, but I'll take it anyway. And then you just let them be. So when regarding to conflict resolution, what do you guys think about that?
No, I like that because when people, this is something you look at the situations, you think, what do people need from it? Again, what do they need? Do they need to find the solution? Are you looking for peace? I always try to find peace. I'm quite diplomatic. I'm trying to find peace in a situation. Some people just need to be right. As one of my old bosses and trainers said years ago, who was a very young and a very talented guy, he used to say to people, yeah. He was always very immediate, very quick. Yeah. Do you want to be right or do you want to be rich? Because some people just want to be right. They want to, oh, I was wrong and you was right. And they're like, yeah, I was right. Some people just want to be right, but some people want to learn. Was I wrong? Was I wrong? Let's have a look at it. Was I wrong? I'm sorry. I was wrong. I've learned and I've grown. Some people want to do that. Some people want to say, am I giving my best in my life, in my career, in my situation, in my relationship? Some people just want to be right. Some people are saying, I don't want to be taken advantage of. Don't treat me like a fool. So is that their aim and objective? We all have these. And again, a lot of people aren't aware of it. We just go through life and if you listen to most people out on the street, on the bus, on the train, they talk about emotions. I've said it before. Oh, I like that. She said this and she meant that. She may not have meant that. You interpreted it as that because you're looking at it through your filter, what's going on in your life right now. You feel a bit like everyone's getting on at you. The next person who says something, you'll take it the wrong way. What do you mean by that? Well, I didn't mean anything, but I'm looking at it through that filter. I'm already defensive, for example. If you're looking at, oh, life is so lovely, it's wonderful. You know what? Everyone who says anything to you, you think they're saying something lovely. You'll see it through rose-tinted glasses. Our perception is very powerful. It doesn't have a lot to do with reality, actually, but it's our perception of life. You can sometimes choose to be aware of what your perception is at this moment in time. And I think that's a really useful tool. What about the other person? Sometimes you've got to tread a little bit carefully because they're a little upset. I had an argument with a girlfriend once, and at that precise moment, I turned around and I saw a lady with exactly the same coat on as her. Quite a rare coat, but strangely enough, I saw another lady with exactly the same. And I was about to say, Hey, look, I thought, no. Not a smart thing to say at this moment in time. And I just went, and 6 months later, I told her, why didn't you say anything? I said, because you was in a really bad mood and we just had an argument. And I thought that was really going to upset. I said, now, a few years ago, I probably would have said, hey, look, she's got to say, but I realized, no, that would be a really dumb thing to say right now. So you start to realize where someone is, where their filter is at that moment in time. On another occasion, perhaps I could have mentioned it and she'd have been okay with it. But at that moment, not a great idea. So it's treading carefully and understanding where someone's coming from. Have they, in their past, has people been putting down on them and they're sick to death of people putting on them? Therefore, perhaps you need, they're coming out fighting a lot more because they don't want to be taken advantage of. You've got to look at that viewpoint. I remember I was a strange thing. Many years ago, I was in a bar. I think it was New Year's Eve or close to New Year's Eve, and there was a big doorman, a big bouncer there, and and all this sort of stuff. And he was there, and he probably had to put that image on because he was there. But he came next to the bar and he said something to me. I just treated him like a normal guy because he said, I said, do you know what time this one will close on New Year's Eve? And he said, I don't know. He said, I need to know. And I said, I'll find out for you. And I asked to start and told him. He said, thank you. That's really good of you. Because I just treated him normal. Like, well, yeah. And he said, look, if you come along, I said, come and see me. I'll make sure you get in. That's really, thanks for doing that. That's really good. I treated him like a human being. And I don't know how other people treated him, but it must have been unusual the way I treated him. And it always stuck in my mind. I thought, well, that was easy. When you treat people like human beings and you get a better response from them. So sometimes people have to put an image on in life because they feel their role, their position requires that. Look at professional people, they'll walk along and they'll be super professional because that's the way it is. They're just people underneath. Everybody, doctors, nurses, lawyers, they're just, just normal people underneath. They have the same problems. They have your professional image and then they are at home. Who are these people? Where do the conflicts start? So once you've got a conflict going, once you've got the conflict, you need to understand how did that happen? Retrace the steps. Where did it all go wrong? As I said, let's use the example. We used to be lovers. We used to be friends. We used to laugh and giggle like kids together. We used to have fun. When did it all get so serious? When did the fun go out of the relationship? Trace it back. What happened? Partly, I mean, some of these things are inevitable. I mean, you guys are, married with kids and stuff, and you get that. As kids, it does take your time, and you do have to focus more on them. What can happen? Maybe the woman, as I said to someone the other day in a different context, when it comes to being really important, when you're feeding the baby, are you worried about doing your hair properly and putting on makeup? No, it's not your priority at that moment in time. Do you have time to look after yourself and go to the gym or something? Probably not. So in the typical sense of, beauty, I mean, you're very beautiful within for what you're doing, but in the typical sense of looking great and having hair and makeup done, that probably goes to the side a little bit. The guy is busy, he's running around, and he gets a bit busier at work. He gets a bit busier, he hasn't got time to do things. Perhaps he puts on a couple of pounds, right? He's spending more time at the office. If he works, sitting there, he's not got time to eat the great food, and he gets a bit, let me get a little bit older and looks start fading. Things happen, right? They're not the people we were. But then be aware of this. Try to look at the beauty of it. Look forward and think, how's this relationship going to work? Because it ain't always going to be quite like this. It's going to change. Hopefully, it's going to go through different aspects and there's more beauty. A man can often say he's never seen a woman more beautiful than when she was pregnant. Because, all that stuff that goes with it. Okay? It's a different kind of beauty you can find. And what did I say? Some women said, I like guys when they get a little bit older, they get a few lines around the face and they get a bit of a bald spot. It doesn't sound too attractive to me, but I kind of get what they mean. It's showing a level of maturity, a certain level of manhood, a certain aspect of dependent. He's not a young guy doing his hair all the time and worried about nonsense like that, like you all do when you're younger, right? I did and all that. When you get a little bit older, that's not quite so important, right? So your focus is more on other things. That sounds more dependable, more of a homemaker, therefore attractive, a provider, these kind of things. You go through different dynamics, obviously, in a relationship. And as you get older, you know, people, I don't know, you speak to people in much older relationships and they say, yeah, much more friendship, you know, my best friend, my soulmate, and all this kind of thing. It goes through various stages. To a certain extent, you have that all along, but it grows, it matures, doesn't it? Right? It's all of these things. But if you're in a relationship, you want to look at it for the long term and imagine how that's going to play out. It's once said that if you're an adrenaline freak, you love the passion. People who argue in relationships sometimes can be very sexually aligned, right? Because they're sparky, it's passionate. Yeah, the breakup, but they're getting back together is fantastic. That's an adrenaline thing. That can wear out. So be careful of that. Can be exciting in the beginning. Has that got longevity to it? Usually not. It's tempestuous. Or one of you may have a heart attack in the process, right? So think about that. It may seem good to some people, that sounds like a nightmare from the beginning. But for some people, that sounds really interesting. Depends who you are. But look, is this a short-term thing or are you looking to go the whole distance with this? Has that got the right elements to go the whole distance? But once the conflict's there, we're looking at now at what is the unique resolution. You've gone through this, either you analysed it at the beginning or you didn't analyse it, but for whatever reason, this person that you thought was fantastic, there's now a conflict. Okay? Whether that is just getting older, taking on more responsibility at work, having children, blah, 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 priorities change. The guy said, hey, I used to be the lover, now you're spending more time with the baby. What about me? Some guys get jealous about that. Some women are, you know, are saying the same. Oh, you're too busy with work and looking after the family. You never look at me anymore. All this stuff. You find yourself in the conflict. What do you do about it? What's the unique resolution? Nomsa, you coach lots of people in relationships. What do you think? What is the unique resolution? What's one approach we can take when it comes to this?
The one approach, like Grant, you mentioned that before, that you have to look back to the reason why you got together in the first place. Unfortunately, we live in this world where everyone compares their lives with somebody else, and they never look at their lives as an individual, as unique. Like when I get my clients, the first thing is like, Nomsa, I need your help. My friends are this, my everybody that I know at work, they're this, but I'm not that. So then the question that I have to ask myself is, when you feel that your friends are married, they have children, you are not married, why are you comparing your life with them? Because you are unique. The journey that you're going is all different. So I'm like, okay, I need to help you, but I can't help you if you continue. We need to divorce that part where you look at your friends and say, you know, my friends have got this, they've got children, they've got a husband, a loving husband. You don't know that they are loving a husband. So at first, when you make a decision, it is got to be your decision that, you know what, I'm feeling lonely. Or if you want counseling, marriage is not working, you just have to say, I need to find a solution with my marriage. I'm not happy the way things are. I need some changes. I need to make some changes. Not, oh, when I look at my friends, they go on a holiday. I never go on a holiday. My husband never want to go to the cinema. He just want to stay at home. When I say let's go out, he does not want to go out. So sometimes comparing somebody, just have to take that away. And then now you have to be honest and look at unmet emotional needs. So what are the issues that lie beneath the surface? Not, my friends, is this. So express them. If you've not expressed them, you express them. tell your spouse how you feel. And sometimes it can lead to that person, if you tell them in a different way, it can lead to resentment, cause conflict to escalate. So as partners, your spouse may not realize that this is what truly bothers you. So explain your struggles to them. Or if you can't explain to them, get a professional involved. And the only thing that we need to also understand is we cannot change. People do change. Like when I met my spouse 10 years ago to where I am today, I've grown. I've not changed, but I've grown. My inner being has grown. So if he still expect that Nomsa that he met 10 years ago, that Nomsa has grown. So he's not going to connect with that Nomsa. So you got to be updated. You got to stay updated with your spouse. And when they grow, you grow with them. And when you cry with them. So if you are like, oh, when we met, we used to do this, we used to do that. I'm still doing the same thing activity-wise. I just love doing, but it's just my inner being has changed. So sometimes when he speaks to me, like sometimes there are things that he will taking them very, very serious. For me, I don't value them. So I don't judge him. I will just listen, and I'll take that on board and make sure that his needs are met. So all those things is just to understand the personalities, the growth, whether are you growing together with your spouse, and also just fight with grace. And the expectations as well. Amanda mentioned the expectations. When somebody speaks to us, first we need to relate to what they're saying, take it all in, connect with their story. Once you connect with the story, and now ask your spouse, how can I save you moving forward? How can I save you better? That's what I always do. How can I save you better moving forward? Because it means that I'm acknowledging. It does not mean that I'm wrong. It does not mean that that my spouse is wrong. It's just I need to ask from him, how do I save you better as my king moving forward? And then if he's interested, he will ask me, so how can I make it different to you? Like, how can I save you? But some people, because we live in this world, there are some men who like when I dated my ex, he was a man that if I doing everything for you, you can't complain, because that means I'm fulfilling your needs. To him, financially, that means you shushu, you don't complain. So I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think I got into a relationship for finances. I got into a relationship for the whole package. So meaning that if I'm not happy with other things, we got to sit down. We got to come together as a team, because we're team. I'm not blaming, but teamwork. And with that teamwork, we come with a solution. But there's some people who are like, yeah, I'm working hard. Why are you complaining? Mostly is men. What do you think, Amanda? Mostly men, they like to sweep things under the carpet. Like, yeah, they put problems in the drawer. The problems have to go in that drawer. They cannot come out. If it come out, it means, woman, you're annoying me. You see? What do you think, Amanda?
I think for conflict resolution that both people have to be willing to work at it, right? It can't just be one-sided. And that goes for any relationship, not just your relationship with your intimate spouse. It can be a relationship with other family members too. And you have to learn how to set boundaries around your time and energy so that you are being the best version of you and showing up in that way. And sometimes there's people who aren't willing to work on your stuff together, and that's okay. You can't force somebody to do something. You can't, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. thing where that's true. You can, even with people who have addictions, you can give them all of the things in the world, all the tools in the world, but they have to choose to use them. And the same goes for relationships. It has to be a combined effort. There's two sides and there's two people that have to work together. And I always tell my daughter that you either like grow together or you grow apart. And it's really a choice, right? It's a choice of continuously working to grow together or you grow apart. And it's, I like those memes where it says like, divorce is hard, marriage is hard, choose your hard, right? And so you get to choose your hard, but you also get to choose what it is that's going to be best for you. And for me, I know that conflict resolution in relationships is sometimes really hard if you're both not willing to look at where, how you're showing up, right? So how I'm showing up, am I showing up as the best version of myself? And if I'm not, then what is it that's causing that? And then is it the relationship? Is it me? Is it that I'm not ready for this type of relationship? Is it that I'm not willing to settle for certain behaviors, and what are the boundaries that you do have? With children, they say that you need even relationships with children. So you were saying before, Grant, that the one guy can't coach his wife, right? It's the same for teachers. Teachers can't teach their children, just like parents can't tutor their children, right? Like it's a different, they butt heads. And so my daughter always used to be like, Mom, I want to come to your school. I want to come to your school and be in your class. And I'm like, no, you don't listen to me. You can't be in my class. And I've seen parents on like field trips too, and their kids like listen to me, but don't listen to them and go and do the exact opposite of what the parent says. And it's because they have that different relationship dynamic, right? And sometimes I need my friends to help me because it takes a village to raise a child, right? I need my friends to help support me in navigating things for my daughter, because I know if I say it, she won't hear it, right?
Right.
And so sometimes, have you ever had that where it's like if your partner or family member or child says it, you don't hear it. You don't hear it at all. But if somebody else says it to you,
Right.
like, oh, and it's like you like get hit where you're just like, oh, now that makes sense. But if somebody else said it to you, or that person said it to you, it wouldn't sink in.
Awesome.
And so I think that's something that we need to think about with relationships too, is am I being open to the feedback, right? Are you being open to the feedback that I'm getting? And then am I working on myself, and are they working on themselves? Because I think that's something like Nomza, you were saying, well, men are the ones that don't necessarily show up, or they'll blame. And I don't think that's true. I think that it really depends on if the person is doing that internal work and if they are trying to grow to be the best version of themselves, and are they on a like healing path or a growth path. And if they're not, and they're completely, like Grant was talking about before, people that are just completely content where they are, that's okay. Some people are completely content where they are, but other people aren't. And so if you're that person where you're like, I have a growth mindset and I want to continue to grow and learn and strive, and you have somebody that's completely content to be like, I'm good, I'm just gonna like play my video games and watch Netflix, and they're totally happy doing that, they're not your person, right? That's not your person if you are a like goal achieving striver. And so I think they might balance you a little bit for a while, but they're not your like your person for that. They might be your person for like, let's hang out when I need to unwind because I'm burnt out. But they're not your like your soulmate or whatever that's going to like help drive you. And so sometimes I think conflict resolution has to be approached differently for different types of relationships too.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's something that we haven't really broached the topic of today, because I know even for myself in the classroom, there are kids that I can make sarcastic comments to, and they get my sarcasm and they know because we have that relationship. There's another kid that if I said that same sarcastic comment to, they would be a bawling mess, right? Because those kids have very different personalities. And so whereas one kid, I can be like, you're driving me nuts, just like knock it off for a minute. They just laugh at me and be like, yeah, you're right, Miss Cottrell. But if I said that to another kid, they would totally cry because they don't have that same personality because they're such a sensitive soul. And so sometimes I think with our conflict resolution, we have to know how that person shows up in the world in order to be able to find ways to approach them in a way that's not going to like cause them to block and shut you out, right?
Right.
And some people just aren't willing to grow. Like I've set boundaries with people where I'm like, psychologist's office or don't talk to me. They won't go to the psychologist's office with me. So like that's my boundary, right? Because it's such an unhealthy relationship that was the point that I finally got to. And that's their choice. I can't make them come to counseling with me, but I can set a healthy boundary for me by saying that in this relationship is so unhealthy that I'm not willing to continue this relationship or any sort of contact with you unless it's with a professional. And I think sometimes we have to get to that point with people, and that's okay, right? Especially with people who have addictions, family members who have addictions, right? And so sometimes we have to realize that conflict resolution sometimes is just stepping away, and that's okay too.
So I think about different types of people. When I want to touch about language of people and different ways to communicate, really, rather than language, different communicate. So Dr. Gary Chapman always spoke about love languages. And that's always something which I always very aware of. Different people respond to different things. And if you don't know about your partner, start asking yourself about yourself first. What is your love language? Once I explain it, then start looking at your partner. Are you communicating to them the wrong way? It could be as simple as this. This could be a unique way to approach things. So, love languages. NOMSA said, are you serving your husband as well as you could? Service is one of the great ways of doing it, okay? Acts of service, how you can serve them, your actions, your deeds, what you do. Some people respond very well to that. Now, if you're asking your partner, acts of service, that may not be a big important thing to him. He may not care about it. He probably does, and that's why you're doing it. But perhaps you think, hey, that would be good. What you may be thinking is, that's what I would like. So that's what they'll like. Maybe not. You may like it, but that may not be the way they respond. I'm sure it is not. So you obviously doing what you do, you know how your husband, what his love language is. But some people, we think about ourselves, don't we? If you look
Yeah,
at
but what he does, Grant, is sometimes, because for me, when I'm speaking to somebody, he'll say, no, I'm okay. I'm like, no one is just okay to live an ordinary life. So I have to force it to him, like, okay, let's do this. And then he'll want to do it. But sometimes people don't open up. So you have to know somebody, and also you got to care. And
yeah,
also, like, to touch on Amanda, I know I said the men, they don't want to be bothered. There's lots of men now who are getting into personal development, which is great. But if you become a matchmaker, that's when you realize that we live in this sad world where most women are the ones that are into personal development.
it's good that people are.
Yeah,
But I
they'll
can
tell
promise.
you that I've been to Tony Robbins, but then you find those who do extra mile because they have business, they want to succeed. That's when they have coaches and stuff. But some
The world is
people,
changing. Yeah,
they live in a blinded life. You'll be surprised.
I can promise you, Nomsa, when I started all this about 20, 21 years ago, people were not into personal development. Men were not into personal development at all. They would relegate that to perhaps my wife, my daughter. I'm not interested in it. It was a really tough gig. You had to re-educate the world about this. It was really tough 20, 21 years ago. Most people, there's always some, but most people, most guys were not into personal development. They are much more open to it now. It's a different world. But the love languages, as we said, service is one. Does your partner like to see acts of service from you, things you do? Is it physical touch? That kind of, do they respond to that? Some, it's about gifts, little love gifts, little gifts. "Oh, I just brought that for you, little things. Oh, that's nice. I'm not talking about diamond rings and things like this, but some women say, yeah, it is diamond rings, but maybe it isn't. It's just little gifts, little thought things. I've just got this for you. Some people respond very well to that. Acts of service, as we said, or one of the key things that can be about relationships when it starts to go wrong is time. You're busy with kids, you're busy with family, you're busy with jobs, you're busy with overtime. You spend more time with your friends at work than you do with me. Is it that? Is it about spending quality time with them? And words. Some people, audio. I was on a call with a great guy yesterday. A great guy, and I was talking about getting on TV. Turns out he's already been on TV and been seen by 86 million people. What did he say to me? I can show you how my business works, because I was helping him with something in his business. He said, "What are you? Are you visual or are you audio, Grant? How do you learn? Or are you kinesthetic?" See, he knew that. He knew, how can I explain my business concept to you? Do you want to see diagrams? Do you want to listen? Do you want to, experience it? Come along and experience it for yourself. It was this kind of thing. So why I say that is some people listen to words. They want words of affirmation. So the 5 times of love language are words of affirmation, quality time. They dedicate their time. Okay. I knew a lady recently who got divorced. She was married to an incredibly wealthy guy, incredibly wealthy. But of course, wealth doesn't come easily, does it? He was always on what? He was always on that. Always having to, yeah. He would buy untold designer handbags and things and exotic holidays. And she said, I would have ditched all of that for a poor guy who gave me some of his time. Very valuable resource. He said, I'll do anything. What do you want? Want diamond rings? Do you want an apartment? He said, all I want is you to put that down for 10 minutes and just talk to me. She walked away from an incredibly wealthy man and got very little from it, if financially. She just wanted out because her life was not being fulfilled. So for her, it was quality time. Some people, it's words of affirmation. Some it is that physical touch. Some is that acts of service. And some is those thoughtful gifts, not just, not the thought, oh, yeah, here's another designer handbag, which might sound nice, but did you know I wanted that bag? Was it thoughtful? One of my sisters is fantastic at thoughtful gifts. She'll know exactly what you need, and she'll get, how did you know that? She's watched, women are pretty good at this, but she's exceptionally good at thoughtful gifts. Really good. She has a real skill at that. So these are 5 types of love language. And remember, it's not the language that you like, it's the language that they like. So observe them, spend a little bit of time, which is love in itself, spending time watching them. What do they need? How do they respond? Okay. And if you explain the concept to them, they might look at you and realize what you need. Okay. These can be a great ways to start to put things back on track and resolve the conflict in a relationship in a unique way. And these are some of the methods that I use when I help people to do that. Of course, we delve deeper into it, where we coach people through it. We explore this further and come up with ideas and ways to do it to make it, very genuine. But these are the essence of it. Amanda, Nomsa?
I was just going to add on that he also has a 5 love languages of children and of teens as well. That if your relationship struggles are with your kids, that those are great too, because it allows you to see that even kids have those same love languages and how to approach them. They're great books, all 3 of them actually.
Thanks, stuff. Nomsa. Oh.
Sorry. Yeah, it's very important to actually understand someone's love language, and also the power of struggle. Conflicts can often turn into battles of control, where each partner is more focused on controlling the other person than resolving the issue, like Grant mentioned before, and that can destroy the trust. And so it's very, very important. And also to understand the role of reversal, which is involved with partners temporarily switching roles, like to see conflict from the other perspective. So if you understand that, and using humor as well, and also incorporation, creative expression, if you understand all those things, and silent section techniques as well in a relationship, they are very, very important. Where couples can agree to like to sit in a silence together for a set amount of time, and 10 or 15 minutes without saying a word whenever the conflict arises, or if you prefer to take some time out during that time, just take some time out. By if you are silencing, you can encourage each other to focus on their emotions without speaking, and see how they react to that, and give each other the space to reflect on what they truly feeling and why you feel it that way. So for me, that's what I'll leave you guys with. And also prepared. Sometimes when we are going through the conflict, we want people to tell us what we want to hear, and be prepared to um, that person when they open up. Or sometimes they might tell you things that they want to hear, you don't want to hear. Just have the mindset of serving. It helps a lot in my business. It just helps me a lot. Like wherever I approach the situation, I just have this mindset of I'm going to serve, not to control the situation. If I don't get my way, I know that that wasn't my day. I just accepted the friendship continues. And in a relationship, it's like that, not controlling somebody, not trying to change somebody to be what you want. It's just having love. I was listening to this 103 woman yesterday. She was talking about love. She said, love, uh, listening without love is an empty sound. Listening with love is an understanding. Love teaches us who God created us to be. Love is an essence of healing. Love is what really matters in everything. We may have all money, we have everything, but if that thing hasn't got love, even in business, if you don't treat your employees with respect, with love, you always come down to conflict. So love is everything. Might as well love one another.
Brilliant stuff.
That's what I leave you guys with. Over to you guys, your words of encouragement.
Well, go
I
ahead,
can,
please.
I can go quickly. So I think whatever conflict resolution you're having, or conflicts that you're having in your relationships and in your life, is really just to like sit with it for a minute and think about how are you showing up, and then also read some books that are going to like help shift your perspective a little bit. I know one book for me that really helped when I was going through struggles, it was called How to Save Your Marriage Without Talking About It. And it just had different approaches to the like constant conflict that you were having, that maybe you could get about it in a different way. And I actually, even though my marriage still ended and was very, very toxic, at the time when I was reading that book, it actually like helped alleviate some of the conflict, which I think that if you had two people who were actually really willing to work together and read, like Grant suggested too, the 5 Love Languages book, if you are both willing to read and grow together and do the work together, that those books are ones that could really help alleviate some conflict. But both partners have to be willing to admit for what their struggles were, and
Yeah.
then also be willing to grow together, right? Or otherwise the conflict will just continue. If there's no growth together, then you'll just keep having the continued same argument over and over and over and over again. until you feel like you're going insane because it's like we're doing the same things over and over and over again and not getting any different results. And so unless you change the way you approach it, you're going to continue to get the same results and have the same conflicts over and over again.
Great stuff. I was going to say that when we go for these things, we can give people advice on how to do it, but the blockage that people get is their own emotions get in the way. And perhaps it's the own emotions is the thing that got you into the conflicts in the first place. So therefore, that's the thing that's going to get you stuck in a conflict. So if you need help from an outside source to guide you and coach you through this process, to have an outside view to come in impartially, which often helps you clear your own emotions so that you can get them out of the way and implement these strategies, that's where we can come in and help you. So if that is the case, come in, reach out to NOMSA, contact the website, and we can help you to get you through your conflict resolution, to help you to implement these unique strategies so that you can do it in a smooth way, in a way that it lands correctly with your partner and puts that relationship back on track so that you can have a happy life. That's what I wanted to say. NOMSA.
Thank you so much, Grant, for a change. Grant has directed you guys to the website. It's www.coach, HSEIA.coach. Please do go to the website and live with grace, everyone, and God bless. I think Grant and Amanda we've covered everything. And please do get in touch if you need us.